Hello everybody, Ron aka Daddy Geek here with another Disney Infinity 2.0 Toy Box tutorial video. In this video I am going to show you how to set up a quick and relatively simple quest. It's going to require quite a few connections to quite a few logic creativity toys, but once we get started you'll see how easy it is, and that's pretty much it. We're going to get started here in a few seconds. Real quick first, I'm just going to do like I've done in the last video, which is I'm going to show you what it looks like completed and done. We'll run through the quest real quick, excuse me, and then we'll come back and we'll set up all the creativity toys. We'll connect them all and hopefully everything will work just well. We'll find out. Alright, so as you can see behind us, we have a little girl, in this case Snow White, and she has a quest for us. How do we know she has a quest? Well, she has that giant exclamation point above her head, which is the universal video game symbol for, hey, I have a quest that I'm either A, too lazy to do, or B, just don't feel like doing, or, you know, are incapable of doing. And I need a hero to help me. So let's go and see what she wants. Please help me! My kitty is trapped in the cave. By the way, there is no voiceover in the game. I added that for your enjoyment. You are welcome. Please save him. Okay, so we're going to accept the quest. As you can see, the camera cut to where we need to go. And now she has a question mark above her head instead of exclamation point. And some enemies have spawned in the cave. Let's go save Mr. Kitty. Get a little warning of falling ice. And let's put through work here. Quick work on these guys. Ooh, and I got an achievement, or a feat, excuse me. I love when that happens. And more concept art. Outstanding. And there is, wait, that's not a kitty. Hey, that's Mr. Kitty. She wants him saved. Let's do it. Alright, let's pick up Mr. Kitty. We'll take him back out. And we'll go drop him off. Mr. Kitty! Meow! And there we go. Star appeared. The loot chest opened. We got our reward, in this case a spark capsule. And Mr. Kitty and Snow White are reunited. Everybody's happy. The end. Let's go collect that. I could always use more sparks. And as you can see, that was really quick. That was simple. This is just an example of what you can do. Obviously, you can create a much more complicated quest line for this, but for the sake of the video and for time, we made it simple. Now, what is a little bit more complicated? Oh, and one other quick thing. If you noticed that now I can walk through here completely free, and what I mean by here is these trigger areas. Walk through them without any worries of re-triggering the text, which is, if you saw my last video, that was a problem that I pointed out, that if you do not make extra logic connections, every time you walk through an area, you will trigger that text over and over and over again, which one, can be very annoying, and two, in this case, would constantly reset the quest, and we don't want that. We want it to only happen once, and I'm going to show you how we make that connection when we get to the other side of the map. But for now, I'll just give you a quick little preview. These are all the creativity toys we used. A lot of text creators, a few special effect creators, a logic gate, and let's see, that's about it. We also have a camera or two. And you can eliminate a few of these steps, like if you didn't need the camera, the cutscene, if you will, the change, you could get rid of that if you wanted to, but I think it adds a nice little effect. And let's get over on the other side of the map, and we're going to show you how to make all the connections. I'm trying to save some time here in the video and not bore you to death, so I put out most of the toys we're going to need for this, but the connections aren't made yet, so that way you can see how everything works. The only toys that are not out are the actors, the townspeople, Snow White and Mr. Kitty, and I didn't put them out yet because I got a few questions from a few different people asking me how I got the characters to stand still in the first video. So I'm going to show you that real quick first, and then we're going to make all of our connections. So what we need to do is we need to get Mr. Kitty and Snow White out. Let's see, where are Mr. Kitty and Snow White? There are so many toys to scroll through now. Here we go. Townspeople. Let's start with Snow White. She's first. There she is. we will plop her down somewhere where we can get a hold of her. Now here's what you do. When you first put them down, their default behavior is wander, which means they just go wherever they feel like going. They just wander all over the map. So what we need to do is we need to target her, go into her properties, and set her behavior. You have a ton of different behaviors to use. We are going to focus on stand still. That makes her stay put. So now we can put her where we want her. She stays there, and we don't have to worry about her wandering off and breaking our quest. Okay, so let's back out. And before we bring out Mr. Kitty, let's move her. And I hit the wrong button. Good job. And I did it twice in a row. Oh, wow. Good thing I don't do this for a living. Okay, up we go. We're going to put Snow White right in front of the tree here, right in front of this little trigger area. Drop her right there. And now we need to bring out Mr. Kitty. Where is Mr. Kitty? There's Mr. Kitty. In this case, we're using the Yeti. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because the actual critters that you could use that more resemble a dog or a cat, they actually do not seem to have the logic, the behavior logic, to stand still. So we're going to have to use townspeople for this. So in this case, we're going to use a Yeti. It's in a cave. There's a little bit of snow on the, on top of the cave. I figured, why not? All right, so let's drop him. And the same exact thing. We are going to target him and tell him to stand still, if we can target him. There we go. And once again, go into properties, behavior, and we're going to go down to standstill. And that's it. And of course, he wandered into our trigger area, which is going to make it much more difficult to target him. Mr. Yeti, that was very unnecessary. Alright, we are not going to put him in the back of the cave yet. We're going to actually stick him right over here, just out of the way. That way we can make our logic connection to him before we throw him in the back of the cave. Just makes it a little bit easier. Alright, now, let's start setting everything up. Alright, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our text creators. What we need to do is go into properties, and we're going to work from left to right. So this is going to be our very first line of text that pops up. We're going to change the style to proposal, which makes the player actually have to accept or dismiss the text. And very first text line, we are going to give out her call for help. Let's see. Please help me. I know, very creative. Alright, and let's see. Space. And once again, painful without a keyboard. Let's see. Please help me. Let's see. We'll do Mr. Kitty is trapped in the cave. Woohoo! And all that's popped up there because on the PS4, if previous things you've typed in will pop up there, and which makes this a lot faster. Okay, done. Disney will approve the text. Please help me, Mr. Kitty is trapped in the cave. All right, we are done with that. And now we are going to set the text for the other text creator. So we'll go over here, and we need to change its properties as well. Same thing, we're going to do proposal, and we're going to create just one line of text. That's all we need, at least for this particular quest, keeping it nice and simple. So in this case, we're going to do please save him. And that is it. We're done. And that text will get approved, and that's it. Those two lines of text are done. That was relatively painless. Now, before we get away from the text creators, what we need to do is this. We are going to make a brand new logic connection, and we are going to tell it when the player accepts that first line of quest to trigger this text creator. So when she gives out her call for help, player will hit the accept button, and then she'll say please save him, and that will start our quest. As you'll see as we start making more connections, once that last line of text is accepted, it will create a domino effect, which will cause every single other creativity to trigger off. It's once you get that basic concept down of having the initial trigger start everything else everything falls into place, and you'll see what I mean in a second here. All right, so the next thing we are going to do, we have our text set up. Next thing I want to do is we are going to quickly use the replayers to create our exclamation point and our question mark. I already set these up, and basically, if you've never used a replayer before, a replayer is like a recorder, and it records whatever you are doing at that particular time. Once you hit record, it will record anything you place and do. It doesn't seem to keep any logic connections, or at least a lot of different logic connections. So it's best to, when you're recording, it's best to just do things like place blocks, or in this case, we're going to place the exclamation point and whatnot. So you need buttons to activate the replayer. One for record, one for stop, one for clear, and one for playback. Think of it as an old-fashioned cassette player or VCR. Alright, so let's get this started. We're going to step on the switch, and as you can see, the button is flashing. It's now recording. So anything we do, the game is going to record, or I should say that replayer is going to remember. It's going to save. So let's go into our editor, and let's find, it's under, if I can find it, and I think I might already pass, decorations. We'll go this direction, I think. And we're looking for all the different symbols and such that you can unlock in the toy box. And I'm sorry, I don't have any favorites set up yet, so we'll have to scroll there, and I unlocked a ton of toys. Okay, so here we go. We got our exclamation point. We're going to need to spin it eventually and not put it into the ground. We're going to bring it up, and we're going to put it directly over Snow White's head. So, let's see, where do we want it? Don't want it too far. If we go, can't go any further down because then it gets on top of her, so we'll go right here. That looks good. So place that there. We'll back out of the editor. And now that replayer has recorded us putting that exclamation point there. So now we're going to come over here, we're going to hit stop. And now we need to actually clear that so we have room to put our question mark, which is going to replace the exclamation point once we accept the quest. So what we need to do next is we're going to clear it. And as you can see, it disappeared. And now we need to go and start our other replayer. And once again, turn it on. It's recording. And now we'll go in here and we will place our question mark. Same thing. Spin it around. Bring it over Snow White. And place it. And that's it. It's done. That's in place. Now we need to do the same exact thing. We're going to come over here. We're going to stop recording. And now we want to clear that one, and we are going to play back the original, which now puts the exclamation point back. Now, we're almost done with the replayers. We got one more thing we need to do. We need to tell the replayer to get rid of the exclamation point and replace it with the question mark. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell this replayer, we're going to make a new logic connection, that we're going to tell this replayer when it's cleared, when that exclamation point disappears, to trigger this replayer, the second one, and we're going to tell that one to play back. So now, once this first replayer clears out the exclamation point, it's going to trigger the other replayer, the second one, to put up the question mark. Very simple. And that is it. Those two are connected. So now we need to start making the rest of our logic connections so everything works. Alright, so the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to target our second text creator. We need a new logic connection. And text proposal accepted. So when the player accepts that second line of quest, basically that's going to trigger the entire quest. So we'll do that. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have it spawn some enemies here. We're going to tell it to generate wave. Okay, so now we need to edit the enemy generator. So what we're going to do is we're going to do configure wave, add new, and we're just going to use some simple frost giants. Before you back all the way out, you need to adjust how many you want spawned. In this case, we want 4. And now we back out again. I believe properties are, properties you can leave. In this case, you can leave alone. Maybe we can get into that in a different video, but for right now, you can leave it at default. We don't need to change anything. So now we need to do 2 locator connections. what we're going to do is we are going to tell the enemy generator to spawn the enemies, the frost giants, at let me see if I can target this, at specific locations. So target it once more, second location, and target this, and we're going to spawn location. And what that does is when that text triggers the enemy spawner, it is going to make them spawn at these two locations, at these spawners, instead of just, you have to tell the enemy generator where you want the enemies to appear. And we're using 2, that way the spawner should spawn 2 at one locator and 2 at another. That way they're not all bunched together in one thing, and it just looks better that way. Alright, so those 2 are done. And while we're here, before we forget, let's take our locators here. We'll spin them around, and we're going to take them and we are going to place them inside our cave. This is where we want our enemies to spawn, so we are going to, let's put it in the cave. We're going to put one there, and we're going to place the other one next to it. So once again, we're going to target the locator, we're going to spin it around. The reason why we're spinning it around is if you look at that picture of the locator, you'll see a light blue little point, a little triangle there. That indicates which direction the locator is facing. It's hard to see when you're actually moving it, but you'll eventually get used to it. And we're going to put this guy right back here, so we kind of spread them out a little bit. So we put that locator back there, and now that's it. We're done with the enemy locator. And now we need to continue to make our logic connections. The next one we're going to do is we're going to stay with this text generator, or a creator I should say. We're going to make another logic connection, and same thing, text proposal accepted. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to clear this first replayer. Now if you remember, that first replayer is controlling the exclamation point. Now that we have told it to clear that exclamation point, that replayer in turn is going to trigger the second replayer. And that is it for that. Now we also need we need to make a logic connection from the trigger area to the text creator to trigger this whole thing, to get this whole thing started. So we're going to pick this first one. We're going to target this trigger area. New logic connection entered. In this situation, we're going to use player. Any is fine. And we are going to tell it to trigger this very first line of text. That will get the entire ball rolling. So what happens is the player steps inside that trigger area. It triggers that first line of text. If the player accepts that first line of text, it goes to the second text generator. They accept that line of text, and that will trigger all the rest of the logic toys that will spawn the enemies, start the quest. Now, we also need to set up our camera. And when you first saw the original quest, you saw that once you accepted it, the camera angle switched to show you the cave. And that's just a nice little effect that I like to use. It kind of, it's like a visual cue for the player. So what we need to do is we need to set that up. We're going to target this camera. This is a target camera, by the way, which, as the name implies, it focuses on a particular target. So in this case, we need to make a new locator connection. We got our little blue friend here. Target him. And make the camera target. So now we told the camera that is the target. That's what we want the camera to focus on. But we need to make just a few more minor adjustments before we are done. So go into Properties. We're going to leave the transition at cut. You can get fancy and do a few other ones, but it's not necessary, at least not for this this particular demo. We are going to use user defined, and this tells us how long the camera will last for. We are going to do we'll do 3 seconds. That sounds good. Camera type is going to be focus, so we focus on the locator. And transition, which means how it cuts back to the default camera. We'll just leave that alone. It cut, it's fine. Player viewpoint is triggering player, that's fine. Glow through, I'm not 100% certain what that is. So we'll leave that alone for now. And camera target, connected locator. And now that's it. We have successfully told the camera where to look and how to do it. So now we need to make a way for the camera to power on, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So once again, we're going to connect our second text generator. Remember, this is the one that has that final line of text that when the player accepts, it starts the quest. And we are going to do a new logic connection. And text proposal accepted. We're going to hit this logic gate. A logic gate is like a fancy power switch. It basically turns on and off creativity toys. It's a little bit more complicated than that. This thing is actually very powerful. You can use it for a lot of things, but for this demonstration, it's basically an on-off switch. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit there and tell it open, which basically means turn on the logic gate. Alright, so now from the logic gate, we are going to tell it new logic connection, open, another term for on in this case, and we're going to target our camera, and we're going to say activate. So now, once the quest starts, the logic gate is going to turn that camera on. So now that we have the camera on, we need to get it out of our way here and place it. So let's first go place the locator, which will be, we're going to put it right at the mouth of the cave. We'll put it up just a little bit, and that should be fine. We'll place it right there. Now we need to actually move the camera, and really what we're doing for the camera is mostly we're just moving it out of our way. So let's get it up. It doesn't have to be dead center of your locator or your area. You just need it somewhere in a general area. You might even be able to move it completely off the map somewhere. I'm not certain. I haven't tried it well enough, but you can go quite high with it. We'll put it way up here. That way it's kind of out of the player's view, which is a little harder to do these days in 2.0 because you have flyers. So the camera is going to be visible. There's not much you can do about that. You can do some tricks to hide it, but for now we're just going to keep it simple and leave it up there. Alright, so now that's done. Now we have our camera, we have our enemy generator, we have our replayers going, and that might be just about it. We only need to do one more final connection, and this is actually one of the most important connections we'll make. We need to use a logic gate to tell the trigger area to deactivate, to stop moving. That way, once we accept the quest and the text, we no longer have to worry about walking through that area and accidentally re-triggering the quest or the text. Basically, we're going to turn off the, long story short, we're going to turn off the trigger area. So what we do now is, once again, we go back to our logic gate. We're going to do new logic connection, open, or again, that's another way of saying on. And we're going to target the trigger area, and we're going to tell it deactivate. So now, when we walk through there for the first time, it'll trigger the quest. And if we go through the steps and accept the quest, that logic gate will now turn that trigger area off and tell it to stop working. So we can freely walk back and forth through it without worrying about triggering the logic gate. So that's it, we're done. We're going to do a couple more quick things here. We are going to quickly target and resize this monstrosity of a trigger area. Alright, let's see. It's about good. Drop it a little bit. Let's see. How's that look? Looks pretty good. It's not bad. That's good enough. Alright, so now we're going to move it. And now here's something new and interesting. I believe I mentioned in the first video that I did that there's no longer a collision detection with these things. Watch this. You can actually put them inside of each other. And I gotta do this so I don't break it. There we go. Move it over a little bit. We'll put it here. That should be good. So now we were actually able to put that box, the trigger area, inside another trigger area. Pretty cool, eh? That's something brand new. Alright, so we have done that. Now, we have just a few more steps before we're done.